In the news, Nigerian Senate orders investigation into alleged payment of $3.8 billion for oil subsidy without legislative approval. International Committee of the Red Cross renews plea for the release of its aid worker Alice Loksha and Dapchi schoolgirl Leah Sharibu, adopted by Boko Haram. Gas explosion leaves at least 10 people dead and several others injured in Crimea. I am Rose Aldo with the details of these and more. The Senate has begun a fresh investigation into the alleged illegal subsidy payment on petrol, otherwise known as premium motor spirit, by the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, NNPC. This followed a point of order by the Senate Minority Leader, Senator Biodun Olujimi, urging the Senate to probe the NNPC for paying subsidy on petrol without the approval of the National Assembly. Olujimi, representing Ekiti South, said since 1999 there has always been a budget for subsidy, but this has been jettisoned by the current government. What is happening now is that there is a fund named as Subsidy Recovery Fund, which is being managed only by two individuals at the NNPC, that is the Managing Director and the Executive Director of Finance. The fund, she told the Senate, is too huge to be managed without recourse to any known law of the land. The call for probe, however, did not go down well with some senators on the platform of the ruling All Progressive Congress in the chamber. In its reaction to the Senate probe, the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation (NNPC) has denied claims that it is holding on to subsidy fund totaling $3.5 billion subsidy fund. The NNPC Group General Manager, Group Public Affairs Divisions Ndu Ugamadu, dispelled the rumor in a statement in Abuja on Tuesday. Ugamadu explained that the National Assembly had directed the NNPC to do everything in its power to stem the shortage of petroleum supply, which hit the country towards the end of 2017. He said based on the directive, the NNPC initiated a move to raise a revolving fund of $1.05 billion since the corporation was and still is the sole importer and supplier of petroleum products in the country. The Group Public Affairs General Manager further explained that since the revolving fund was raised, it has been domiciled with the Central Bank of Nigeria, and at no time was the money ever in the custody of the NNPC. Ugamadu also said the fund, called the National Fuel Support Fund, is being jointly managed by the NNPC, the Central Bank of Nigeria, and the Federal Ministry of Finance. Other managers of the funds include the Petroleum Product Pricing Regulatory Agency, Office of the Accountant General of the Federation, the Department of Petroleum Resources, and the Petroleum Equalization Fund. He further clarified that NNPC did not independently spend a dime of the fund, which was to ensure stability in the petroleum product supply in the country, while adding that the Petroleum Corporation was fully aware that it was only the National Assembly that had the statutory powers to appropriate funds on petroleum subsidy matters. The International Committee of the Red Cross has made a fresh appeal to Boko Haram to release the two remaining hostages being held by them. They are Alex Loksha, who was working for UNICEF, and Leah Sharibu, the Dapchi schoolgirl kidnapped February 19, 2018. ICRC Regional Director for Africa, Patricia Damsey, renewed the appeal Tuesday, about 24 hours after the terrorists killed the second Red Cross worker in their custody, Hawa Mohammed Liman. On September 26, the terrorists killed their first Red Cross hostage, Saifura Husseini Ahmed Kosha, drawing national and global condemnations. Hawa, together with Saifura Husseini Ahmed Kosha and Alice Loksha, were adopted by Boko Haram from IDP camp in the northeastern town of Ran on March 1. Leah Sharibu, the 15-year-old student abducted by the group from Government Girls Science and Technical College in Dapchi, Yobe State, along with 109 schoolmates, while Boko Haram freed the rest of the girls in March. They held on to Leah because she refused to renounce her Christian faith. The parents of Hawa Mohammed Liman have reacted to the unconfirmed execution of the International Red Cross aid worker by the dreaded Boko Haram sect. Hawa was abducted in Ran in March by the Boko Haram along with 2 other aid workers. The parents, in emotional-laden voices said their daughter could still be alive but demanded for the release of her corpse if truly she had been executed. Meanwhile, a Nigerian lady who also goes by the name Hawa Liman on Tuesday decried the usage of her photos in place of the aid worker who had reportedly been executed by Boko Haram. Court dismisses Marilyn Agha's case against federal government. The National Industrial Court on Tuesday dismissed a request by a former spokesperson of the Department of State Security, DSS, Marilyn Agha, for the reversal of her sack by the secret police. Ms. Agha was sacked in 2015 following allegations of alleged fraud and engaging in partisan politics. She had asked the court to nullify her suspension and ensure her immediate reinstatement alongside other DSS officials sacked with her. The former DSS spokesperson had approached the court in 2016 but abandoned the suit. A fresh request was made on the same matter by her in May 2018. The case was slated for judgment in July last year after the court entertained arguments from counsel on the matter, but Agha, without notice to the court, abandoned the matter under circumstances that still remain unclear. Delivering the judgment, the judge Olufunke Anue said the application brought by Agha was dead on arrival since it was not renewed in accordance with the rules of the court. A federal high court sitting in Lagos has certified a judgment delivered by the High Court of Justice Queen's Bench Division and upheld by the Supreme Court of the United Kingdom, directing Sheba Exploration and Production Company Limited, Allen Limited, and Dr. Ambrosio Bryant, Chukweloka Ojiako, chairman of Seplat Petroleum, to pay African Export-Import Bank, Diamond Bank PLC, and Sky Bank PLC the sum of $144.2 million, being the outstanding and accrued interest of a facility granted to the defendants in 2011. Certifying the UK court judgment, the Federal High Court ordered the defendants to comply with the judgment and denied the defendant permission to appeal it. The 3 banks had dragged the defendants to the High Court of Justice Queen's Bench Division in an effort to recover an outstanding of the facility loan granted to them. The claimants had applied for a summary judgment against the defendant for sums outstanding under a syndicated loan facility agreement totaling over $144.2 million, together with interest on those sums. United Bank for Africa PLC has announced its unaudited third quarter financial results with growth in gross earnings at 374.8 billion naira, representing a 12.3% increase when compared to 333.9 billion naira recorded in the corresponding period of 2017. According to the report filed to the Nigerian Stock Exchange, UBA's net operating profits improved by 1.7% year-on-year to 227.7 billion naira when compared to 224 billion achieved in the similar period of 2017. Amidst inflationary pressures and uncertainties undermining the business environment in Nigeria and a few other countries in Africa, UBA's operating expenses only increased by 2.3% to 149.1 billion naira compared to 144 billion naira recorded in the same period of last year. Overall, the bank posted a profit before tax of 79.1 billion naira, while the profit after tax stood at 61.7 billion naira. About 10 people have been reported dead, while 50 others were injured in an explosion that occurred at the Technical College on Wednesday in the city of Kerch on the Black Sea Peninsula of Crimea. Russia's National Anti-Terror Committee spokesman Andrei Domskil told official news agency TASS that the building was evacuated and condemned off after the explosion. Initial reports cited law enforcement sources as saying that the suspected cause was a gas canister that blew up. However, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov told reporters that President Vladimir Putin had ordered security services to investigate. Crimea is a Black Sea peninsula which Russia annexed from Ukraine 4 years ago. CSOs raise alarm over partisan police in elections. Situation Room Nigeria has expressed concern over the growing negative role of the police and other security agents in obstructing the nation's electoral process rather than concentrating on their core mandate of providing security. Convener of the Situation Room, Clement Nwankwo, stated this based on his group's observations of the partisan role played by some commissioners of police in the just concluded Osun State governorship rerun election, whose conduct attracted condemnations by both local and international election observers. Aneta Patrick reports.
It is another dialogue meeting for Situation Room Nigeria, Police and Independent National Electoral Commission to review successes and lapses from recent elections and the way forward ahead of the 2019 general elections. This group, which is a body for non-governmental organizations and the voices of the masses, is decrying the non-commitment of the police to providing, without political bias, adequate security before, during and after the elections. It therefore wants the security hierarchy to properly monitor the activities and mode of operations of the various security personnel on ground during elections.
We keep making the point that the security services are under, with respect to elections, are under the operational command of INEC, which means that they are deployed and they get direction from INEC on what is needed. And if INEC is not getting that from the security services, then INEC must act to bring the security services within its control. A situation where security services become active participants in supporting particular aspirants or parties for election is a major threat to democracy, and this country needs to be very wary about it.
Responding on behalf of the police, a representative of the Inspector General of Police, while acknowledging observed lapses in the recent elections, reassured Nigerians on the level of police preparedness for the 2019 general elections.
You cannot quantify security, and election duties are ad hoc. It's not done every day. And deployment of policemen for any assignment depends on the exigency of that situation. So if you found more than enough policemen in Osho, I think that is very good. And that did not in any way shortchange the security architecture of other states in the Federation.
The INEC chairman said only 8 out of 89 registered political parties had submitted their list of candidates for the 2019 elections, even as he appealed to voters who are yet to collect their PVCs to do so without further delay.
89 political parties, 89 political parties submitted notices for the conduct of primaries. But as at the close of business yesterday, only 8 political parties have filed their nominations.
Concerns were also raised on funding for the 2019 elections, given the increase in the number of political parties and increased number of eligible persons on the voter register. Anita Patrick, reporting for Clearview Television.
The Super Eagles overcame Libya 3-2 in their 2019 Africa Cup of Nations qualifier in efforts to top Group E for the first time, courtesy of 2 goals from Odion Igalo and 1 from Ahmed Musa. South Africa had led the group before match day 4 of the qualifiers with 7 points, but let slip after they were held 0-0 earlier by whipping boys, Seychelles. The Eagles returned the favor by beating the North Africans to climb to the top of the group with 9 points, while Libya are on third with 4 points. China-based striker Igalo grabbed the curtain raiser in the 14th minute after some fine interchange of passes between Alex Iwobi and Captain Musa. 3 minutes later, Igalo turned provider for Musa for the second goal. The Libyans did draw level, but the three-time African champions edged the contest with a fine finish from Igalo, first selling a dummy to his markers, who went crashing before firing in the decisive goal. His fifth against the Libyans in 1 week.
Dans les gants d'Ahmed. Oh, bien joué le U2, Moussa, pas de position d'hors-jeu, l'offrande avec la conclusion derrière pour Odion Igalo. Un éclair de génie d'Ahmed Moussa, un coup d'accélération des Super Eagles. C'est Igalo qui marque encore un but. Il en avait mis 3 lors du match précédent, c'est un P1 de plus. C'est son 5e sur ses éliminatoires de la CAN 2019. Le Nigeria mène 1-0 face à cette formation libyenne. Ouais, l'amour de ballon là avec Ahmed Moussa, hop, c'est statique derrière, un joli 1-2 parfaitement. La remise pour Ahmed Moussa dans la surface, il va au bout de l'idée. Oh, ça va terminer au fond des filets. Après la passe décisive, c'est au tour du but pour Ahmed Moussa. Ça fait 2-0 pour le Nigeria face à la Libye. Et là, il a été au bout de son idée. Il a perdu l'équilibre certes, mais il vient marquer ce but pour creuser l'écart, son 15e but en sélection. Le but d'Ahmed Moussa. Et là c'est du coup sur coup avec Igalo, passeur dans le bon timing, le contrôle est bon, la défense un peu statique derrière. Ouais, ça se trouve là, ça se trouve de un peu pour la Libye qui relance l'intérêt de cette rencontre sur une passe de jeu arrêtée, et c'est lui qui a eu cette occasion tout à l'heure. Zahébia, jeu, pas de position de hors-jeu, le centre c'est pas bien négocié avec la frappe derrière. Ouais, l'égalisation elle est là. Ahmed Ben Ali qui égalise pour la Libye face au Nigeria. Ils sont revenus de très loin, ils étaient menés 2-0. On les sentait en train de lâcher un petit peu là, de lâcher la pression, on va dire. Avec la possibilité pour Igalo, oh le petit crochet, il fait des dégâts et derrière, il ne tremble pas. Oh que oui, ils peuvent le remercier une nouvelle fois Igalo, petit bijou là, technique, énorme qualité. L'inspiration Kalou, il a à peine le temps de sortir, mais voilà, son équipe reprend le lead. Le deuxième but dans cette partie pour Igalo. Et quelle justesse technique, ça fait 3-2 dans ce match fou là entre la Libye et le Nigeria. Regardez, hop.
Teen Nigerians Rosemary Chukwuma and Alaba Akintola have won gold and silver medals at the ongoing Youth Olympics game in Buenos Aires, capital of Argentina. Chukwuma finished with a time of 11.17 seconds to win the female category of the athletics 100 meters event. She won ahead of Julian Alfred of St. Lucia and Gabriela Suarez of Ecuador. Akintola also clocked a time of 10.24 seconds to win silver medal in the boys category of the same event. Luke Davids of South Africa won the event with a time of 10.15 seconds, while Japan's Seyo Ikeda came with 10.30 seconds. The International Association of Athletics Federations, IAAF, says it has agreed to postpone by 5 months the implementation of controversial new rules on high testosterone levels in female athletes to avoid further delay in proceedings brought by South Africa track star Caster Semenya, challenging the legality of the new rules. World Track and Field's governing body had scheduled November 1 as the date to introduce the rules that have split openings among female athletes. Many welcome the new rules as a way to create a fairer playing field, while others such as Semenya argue it as discriminatory. The powerfully built Semenya, a double Olympic 8-meter champion, and three-time world champion, is potentially the highest-profile female athlete that would be affected by the new regulations on high testosterone levels. Canada has officially legalized the recreation and use of cannabis. It is currently the second country in the world to have legalized the possession and recreational use of cannabis after Uruguay. The law came into effect at midnight, and locals in some communities braved the code to buy their first legal grams of the drug. The move fulfills the campaign promise of Canada Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, who claimed decriminalizing the drug would keep profit out of the hands of crooks. But critics say it will lead to an increase in deaths on Canada's road. Cannabis rights activist Dana Larson, speaking on those concerned about the health risk of the intake of the drug, said,
"All the harms of cannabis are magnified by cannabis prohibition, and by any measure, cannabis is far, far safer of a choice than alcohol is. And so we should not be regulating cannabis more strictly than alcohol. And certainly the prohibition of cannabis began in racism and ignorance and bigotry, and it never became a good idea. So ending the scourge of cannabis prohibition, I think, will be a wonderful thing for Canada and people all around the world as this spreads."
U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo has been meeting with Turkey's president and foreign minister. The meeting was initiated to discuss the disappearance of a Saudi journalist as pressure mounted on Saudi Arabia Kingdom to provide answers following Turkish allegations that he was killed.
U.S. President Donald Trump gave Saudi Arabia the benefit of doubt on Tuesday, even as U.S. lawmakers pointed the finger at Saudi leadership, and Pompeo, sent by Trump to address the crisis, discussed the affair with Saudi King Salman and his crown prince on a visit to Riyadh. Turkish officials have said they believe Khashoggi, a prominent critic of Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, was murdered and his body removed. Reports say the authorities have an audio recording indicating Khashoggi was killed inside the consulate. The Saudis have strongly denied those allegations, but the U.S. media outlets reported that Saudi will acknowledge he was killed in a botched interrogation in Saudi consulate. Trump has speculated without providing evidence that rogue killers could be responsible. Turkish investigators searched the consulate for the first time on Monday night, gathering strong but inconclusive evidence that Khashoggi was killed there. Erdogan has indicated that parts of the consulate had been repainted.
They told me they were going to conduct a thorough, complete, transparent investigation. They made a commitment to hold anyone connected to any wrongdoing that may be found accountable for that, whether they are a senior officer or official. They promised accountability for each of those persons whom they determine as a result of their investigation deserves accountability.
Including a member of the royal family?
They made no exceptions to who they would hold accountable. They were very clear. They understand the importance of this issue. They're determined to get to the bottom of it, and that they will conduct the report, and we'll all get a chance to see it.
Highlights. The Nigerian Senate has ordered investigation into alleged payment of $3.8 billion for all subsidy payments without approval of lawmakers. International Committee of the Red Cross has renewed its plea for the release of its aid worker Alice Lokshar and Dapchi schoolgirl Leah Charibu. At least 10 million people have been killed and several others hospitalized following a gas explosion in Crimea. That's the news. I am Rose Audu. Thanks for being there with us.